For centuries, reversing aging was the ultimate fantasy. Kings searched for it, scientists dismissed it, and most people quietly accepted that decline was just how life works. But here's the uncomfortable question no one asks out loud. What if aging was never truly irreversible, just poorly understood? Because right now, something unprecedented is happening behind laboratory doors, and it challenges everything you were told about getting older. What if aging isn't simply about time passing, but about cells following outdated instructions? What if the real problem isn't your age, but your biological clock running the wrong program? Scientists are no longer just slowing aging down, they're learning how to turn parts of it back. Not in theory, not in animals only. Human tests are starting now, and that changes the conversation from someday to pay attention. This matters because aging well isn't about chasing youth. It's about protecting strength, mobility, clarity, and independence before they quietly slip away. If you've ever wondered why two people of the same age live in completely different bodies, or felt that your energy, balance, or recovery isn't what it used to be, this is the missing layer most people never hear about. Stay with this, because once you understand what's actually being reversed, you'll never look at aging the same way again. Aging has long been treated like gravity, unavoidable, irreversible, and non-negotiable. For decades, the dominant belief was simple. Time passes, cells wear down, and decline is just the price we pay for living longer. But modern longevity science is quietly rewriting that story. Researchers now understand that aging isn't random chaos. It follows biological patterns, instructions, and signals that can be influenced. That shift alone changes how we think about healthy aging, Healthspan, and what it truly means to age well. At the cellular level, aging leaves fingerprints known as the hallmarks of aging. These include genomic instability, mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular senescence, and chronic inflammation. Think of them as warning lights on a dashboard, signals that systems are drifting off course. When too many of these lights stay on for too long, mobility declines, strength after 50 fades, balance becomes fragile, and independence slowly erodes. What's fascinating is that these processes don't happen overnight. They accumulate gradually, often years before symptoms show up. Here's the paradigm shift. If aging follows biological rules, then biology can be influenced. That's where evidence-based health and longevity biology enter the conversation. Scientists no longer see aging purely as wear and tear, but as a program, one shaped by cellular signals, epigenetics, metabolism, and environment. This doesn't mean chasing immortality or biohacking recklessly. It means understanding how lifestyle, movement, nutrition, sleep, and cellular health interact to preserve functional fitness and quality of life over time. This perspective reframes everything. Instead of asking, how old am I? The better question becomes, how old are my cells behaving? That's the concept of biological age, and it explains why two people of the same chronological age can have wildly different mobility, energy, and resilience. Once you grasp that aging is adjustable, not fixed, the next question becomes unavoidable. If the program can be influenced, what happens when science learns how to partially reset it? And that's where the story takes a dramatic turn. The real turning point in longevity science didn't come from a supplement, a workout trend, or a diet. It came from a lab in Japan when a quiet but radical discovery changed how scientists think about cells and aging. Dr. Shinya Yamanaka showed that adult cells aren't locked into their age forever. With the right signals, they can be guided backward. That single insight cracked open the door to what we now call cellular reprogramming, and it reshaped the future of aging research. Yamanaka discovered that just 4 genes, now known as the Yamanaka factors, could reset an adult cell into a pluripotent state similar to an embryonic cell. In simple terms, a skin cell could forget it was skin and become young again. This breakthrough earned a Nobel Prize for a reason. It proved that biological age isn't fixed. But there was a catch. Fully resetting cells erase their identity, which is useful for lab research, but dangerous inside a living human body. That's where the real revolution began. Scientists asked a smarter question. What if cells didn't need a full reset? What if aging could be reversed partially, just enough to restore function without wiping out identity? This idea of partial cellular reprogramming is what makes human rejuvenation realistic. not reckless. It's the difference between rebooting your entire computer and simply clearing corrupted files so the system runs smoothly again. This concept matters far beyond theory. If cells can regain youthful function, tissues may heal better, mitochondria may produce energy more efficiently, and systems tied to mobility, balance, and functional fitness may operate with less friction. It reframes biohacking into something more responsible, educational, light, and grounded in evidence-based health. And once scientists proved this worked in animals, the next step became inevitable, testing it where it truly matters, in humans. For years, cellular reprogramming lived safely inside research papers and animal studies. Powerful, promising, but still theoretical for everyday life. That changed the moment biotech companies decided to cross the most important line in longevity science, human trials. This is where ideas stop being interesting and start being accountable. And one company, in particular, stepped forward to take that responsibility seriously. Life Biosciences announced that the first human clinical trials using partial cellular reprogramming are set to begin with an initial focus on vision loss. The target isn't cosmetic aging or performance enhancement, it's restoring function. By rejuvenating damaged retinal cells, researchers aim to improve sight by addressing biological age at the cellular level. That choice is strategic. The eye is accessible, measurable, and highly sensitive to biological aging, making it an ideal proving ground. What makes this moment historic isn't just effectiveness, it's safety. Manipulating genetic programs demands precision and restraint. These trials are designed to answer the hardest question in evidence-based health. Can we intervene in aging biology without creating new risks? That's why early studies are cautious, localized, and tightly monitored. No shortcuts, no hype, just data, observation, and accountability, exactly how responsible longevity research should operate. If these trials succeed, the implications go far beyond eyesight. They would validate that biological age can be modified safely in humans, opening doors to broader applications across tissues tied to mobility, strength after 50, balance, and independence. This is the moment where science either earns trust or goes back to the drawing board. And understanding how these interventions work becomes just as important as whether they work at all, which leads us directly into the mechanisms behind cellular rejuvenation. At first glance, cellular rejuvenation can sound almost magical, but the real power is in the mechanics. Partial cellular reprogramming doesn't target one single problem. It works across multiple systems at once. That's what makes it so different from most interventions in evidence-based health. Instead of treating symptoms, it addresses the underlying signals that tell a cell how old it should behave. In longevity science, that distinction changes everything. One of the most important targets is epigenetic age, the chemical tags that sit on your DNA and act like a biological clock. Over time, those tags drift and cells start expressing the wrong instructions. Reprogramming helps reset that clock, nudging cells back toward a more youthful operating system. Think of it less like replacing hardware and more like restoring the original software settings. Cleaner signals, better performance, fewer errors. Reprogramming also improves DNA repair and mitochondrial function. When mitochondria work better, cells produce energy more efficiently, which directly impacts mobility, balance, and functional fitness in daily life. It's the difference between feeling constantly drained versus having enough energy to train, recover, and stay independent. There's also evidence that reprogramming helps reduce the burden of senescent zombie cells, which linger without contributing and quietly disrupt surrounding tissue. What's fascinating is how interconnected this all is. When cellular energy improves, tissues communicate better. When DNA repair improves, inflammation drops. When senescent cells decrease, systems regain resilience. This isn't about chasing youth, it's about restoring function. And once you understand these mechanisms, a bigger question naturally emerges. If rejuvenation is possible, what stands in the way of making it safe, ethical, and accessible at scale? Whenever science pushes boundaries, the real test isn't excitement, it's restraint. With cellular reprogramming, the biggest question has never been if it can work, but how safely it can be applied over time. One of the primary concerns is long-term safety, especially the risk of uncontrolled cell growth. That's why every serious longevity researcher treats caution not as a limitation, but as a prerequisite. There are also ethical and practical considerations that can't be ignored. Who gets access first? How do we prevent misuse? And how do we separate legitimate evidence-based health interventions from exaggerated biohacking claims? These questions matter because longevity isn't just about extending lifespan. It's about preserving health span, quality of life, and independence across entire populations, not just a privileged few. Cost is another real-world barrier. Early-stage therapies are almost always expensive, complex, and limited in availability. But history offers perspective. Technologies like genome sequencing and advanced imaging were once unreachable. Today, they're routine. If cellular rejuvenation proves safe and effective, scale and accessibility will follow. The key is patience, rigorous science, and transparent results rather than rushing adoption. What's truly transformative is the long-term vision. Aging could shift from being seen as an unavoidable decline to a treatable biological condition. That doesn't mean chasing eternal youth. It means reducing frailty, preserving mobility, and extending independence. And while these therapies mature, an important realization becomes clear. You don't need to wait for the future to start aging better right now. Here's the part most people miss while chasing futuristic breakthroughs. You don't need to wait for advanced therapies to improve your biological age. Long before cellular reprogramming reaches the mainstream, the foundations of longevity are already available, and they're remarkably effective when applied consistently. The same systems that future therapies aim to influence are already responding to daily habits tied to movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress management. Start with movement, not extreme workouts, but functional fitness that supports real life. Strength after 50 isn't about lifting heavy. It's about preserving muscle so you can stand up, carry groceries, and stay steady on uneven ground. Simple resistance training 2 to 3 times a week, combined with daily mobility work, directly supports mitochondrial health, balance, and independence. Think squats to a chair, loaded carries, and controlled range of motion exercises. Boring, effective, and powerful. Nutrition plays a quieter but equally important role. Antioxidant-rich foods, adequate protein, and stable blood sugar help protect cells from the very damage that accelerates aging. This isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. A Mediterranean-style pattern, sufficient protein at each meal, and avoiding chronic calorie swings support healthy aging far more than any trending diet. Add quality sleep and basic stress regulation, and you're already influencing your cellular environment in meaningful ways. And this is where many people feel overwhelmed. Too much information, not enough clarity. That's exactly why resources like the Longevity Protocol exist, to organize what actually matters, remove the noise, and help you apply evidence-based health principles without guesswork. Because while science works toward future breakthroughs, your quality of life today is shaped by what you do this week. And once you see how much control you already have, a deeper question naturally forms. What happens when tomorrow's science meets today's habits? We are standing at the edge of a new era. Not because aging has been defeated, but because it's finally being understood at its roots. Cellular reprogramming is redefining what aging means, shifting it from an unavoidable decline to a biological process that can be influenced, guided, and potentially improved. This isn't about living forever. It's about living better for longer, with strength, mobility, balance, and clarity still intact. But here's the real question, and it's one only you can answer. What are you doing today to support the version of yourself you want to be 10 or 20 years from now? Knowledge alone doesn't change your health span. Action does. Movement that preserves functional fitness. Nutrition that supports cellular repair. Habits that protect independence instead of quietly draining it. Science may open doors, but you still have to walk through them.
Quality sleep is crucial for your health.
If this video challenged the way you think about aging, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you stay grounded in evidence, not hype, as this science evolves. And before you go, make sure to watch the previous video. Are ice baths silently draining your energy? What science really says about cold plunges. Understanding longevity isn't about chasing trends. It's about knowing when something truly helps and when it quietly works against you. Because remember, your goal isn't youth, it's independence.